To help us make sense of this latest round of talks and the impact on Israel, we welcome our guest, Emanuele Ottolenghi, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and the author of Iran, the Looming Crisis. Emanuele, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the tension between Tel Aviv and D.C. was already at historically high levels. Does this deal and the different reactions to it, does it represent an irreparable break between our countries?
I don't think it's irreparable. By the way, it's Jerusalem, the capital of Israel.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerusalem. My apologies.
That's absolutely fine. I don't think it's irreparable, but it is certainly very serious. And I think that the tension is caused by the confluence of a lot of factors, a lot of changes in U.S. foreign policy in the region. The Syria crisis, which you mentioned, the way the United States responded to the Arab Spring. But certainly on the nuclear issue, I think the Israelis are understandably concerned that for almost a decade the international community gradually and with a lot of political and diplomatic difficulties and huge investment of diplomatic capital on the part of the United States and Western allies built a very complicated, well-structured regime of sanctions to put pressure on Iran's economy. It has achieved very remarkable results in the process. Yeah. It has set some important red lines to solve this crisis. And we're very close to the finish line. It's a bit like a running race. The West, with the U.S. in the lead, is very close to the finish line with its adversaries way in the back. And what's happened in Geneva yesterday is that the United States stopped 100 yards before the finish line to wait for Iran to regain ground. That's why the Israelis are concerned.
Sure. Let me ask a question back to Emanuele. I found your metaphor intriguing. Here we are, we're running a race. We're 100 yards from the finish line. This deal represents a letting up of the gas pedal, pulling up. Describe the finish line for me. What was it? What was the finish line we were close to in achieving the kind of change we want in Iran?
Well, the sanctions had achieved a remarkable result, which was the Iranian economy was under profound distress. Not enough to bring the regime on its knees and beg for, sort of accept kind of a surrender on the nuclear program, but enough to have the regime very concerned that if the situation were to continue, they may face, a popular uprising.
Is your finish line you're describing, though, is that a regime change in Iran, or is that the current regime de-escalating, scaling back their nuclear program? What were we close to accomplishing?
The finish line for the P5+1 was set in 6 UN Security Council resolutions that say that Iran had to suspend all of its enrichment activities, including research and development.
And you think we were close to that?
We were close to that because the Iranian economy was on the brink of collapse. Now watch what's happened in the last 24 hours. Despite the fact that no sanction has been lifted yet, the psychological impact of the agreement alone has reappreciated the Iranian currency by 5% in 24 hours. So this is what you have to take into consideration when Secretary of State John Kerry says that the concessions are limited and the basic structure of the sanctions regime remains in place and they can be reinstated. That is simply not true. The psychological impact of that agreement alone will give an economic lifeline to the regime, will enable the regime to restore economic confidence in the system, will regain legitimacy internally, and will enable, because the nuclear program has not been suspended and the enrichment will not be stopped, the regime is still in a position to achieve the nuclear weaponization finish line within the next 6 months if it wishes to do so.
So, Buck, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.